My name is Amanda Wilson. I'm 34, and I never imagined that becoming a single mom to my amazing 8-year-old son Ethan would reveal just how conditional my family's love really was. The favoritism toward my younger brother Tyler has always been painful, but when they completely ignored Ethan's birthday, then had the audacity to demand $2,200 for Tyler's graduation party, that was my breaking point. The look in their eyes when they realized I'd sent exactly $1 was absolutely priceless. Before I dive into how my family's years of favoritism finally pushed me to stand up for myself and my son, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family members. Growing up in suburban Pennsylvania, I never quite understood why my parents, Diane and Robert Wilson, treated me differently from my brother Tyler. Our middle-class neighborhood was filled with similar families, 2 kids, modest homes, regular barbecues, but beneath the surface, our family had an invisible imbalance that shaped everything. My earliest memory of this favoritism was my 10th birthday. My parents promised a small party with a few friends, but last minute, they decided to attend Tyler's soccer game instead. I sat with a babysitter and 3 friends, opening presents while my entire family cheered for 7-year-old Tyler from the sidelines. When they returned, they brought him ice cream. They forgot to buy my birthday cake. As we grew older, the pattern became more pronounced. My high school debate team made it to state finals, but my parents couldn't attend because Tyler had a regular season basketball game. When I graduated with honors, they missed half the ceremony because Tyler, then a freshman, had a band recital later that day. They rushed me through celebration photos to ensure they wouldn't be late for his performance. College was where the disparity became impossible to ignore. Despite my higher grades and multiple scholarship offers, my parents provided only partial financial support for my education. I worked 2 part-time jobs to cover the rest, often studying until 2 a.m. after closing shifts. Meanwhile, Tyler received a full ride from our parents for a private university despite his average grades, plus a new car for his 18th birthday. Their explanation was always the same. Tyler needs more support to succeed. You're naturally independent. At 25, I married James, Ethan's father. We had a simple wedding because my parents contributed only a fraction of what they later spent on Tyler's extravagant ceremony. They claimed financial constraints, yet somehow found the money for Tyler 2 years later. James and I were young and perhaps rushed into marriage, but when I discovered I was pregnant, we committed to building a family. Everything changed when Ethan was 2. James began staying out late, coming home with vague explanations. Then, one Tuesday, he packed a bag while I was at work, left his wedding ring on the kitchen counter, and disappeared. The note simply read, "I'm not ready for this responsibility. I'm sorry." The divorce was quick since he didn't contest anything, but child support payments became increasingly sporadic before stopping entirely. Suddenly, I was a single mom with a toddler, struggling to advance in my marketing career while juggling daycare schedules and pediatrician appointments. My parents' response? Well, we warned you about marrying him. They offered occasional babysitting, usually when it was convenient for them, but their financial and emotional support went primarily to Tyler, who was starting his first job with a generous Getting Started fund from my parents. As Ethan grew, the favoritism extended to him too. My parents remembered Tyler's girlfriend Rachel's birthday with thoughtful gifts, but consistently sent belated cards or generic toys for Ethan. Christmas gatherings featured piles of presents for Tyler's side of the family, while Ethan received token gifts, often age-inappropriate or impersonal. I built my marketing career carefully, starting as an assistant and working my way up to project manager at a mid-sized agency. My finances stabilized, but remained carefully budgeted, every dollar accounted for between Ethan's needs, our modest 2-bedroom apartment, and my attempts to build emergency savings. Meanwhile, my parents helped Tyler with the down payment on his house, paid for his honeymoon in Europe, and talked constantly about the trust fund they were building for his future children. Despite everything, I maintained contact with my family, weekly phone calls, monthly visits, and regular family gatherings. I wanted Ethan to have grandparents, an uncle, extended family connections. I told myself that some family was better than none. and carefully shielded Ethan from noticing the disparity in treatment. When he asked why Uncle Tyler got bigger Christmas presents from Grandma and Grandpa, I would redirect. Everyone shows love differently. They care about you in their own way. My parents enjoyed a comfortable retirement, with a paid-off house and regular vacations. They weren't wealthy, but they were secure. Secure enough to consistently help Tyler with major expenses, while telling me they wished they could do more for me but simply didn't have the funds. I never asked for money, priding myself on self-sufficiency, but the contrast was impossible to ignore when they'd mention in the same conversation their plans to help Tyler remodel his kitchen and their inability to contribute to Ethan's summer camp fees. I maintained the peace, swallowed the hurt, and focused on creating the best life possible for Ethan. I taught him gratitude, resilience, and self-reliance, values I'd learned through necessity rather than choice. I believed family relationships were worth preserving despite the inequity. It wasn't until Ethan's 8th birthday that I realized how much this family dynamic was costing us both. Ethan had been obsessed with dinosaurs since he was 4. He could recite facts about obscure prehistoric creatures that I'd never heard of, spent hours arranging his collection of plastic dinosaurs into complex scenarios, and begged for trips to the Natural History Museum whenever possible. For his 8th birthday, I was determined to create the dinosaur-themed celebration of his dreams. 6 weeks before his birthday, I sent invitations to everyone in the family. I created custom dinosaur-themed digital invites, followed up with text messages to confirm receipt, and even called my parents directly to make sure the date was on their calendar. March 12th, Saturday afternoon, dinosaur party for Ethan. He would really love if you could come, I emphasized. My mother assured me they wouldn't miss it, and I specifically confirmed they had no other plans that weekend. The excitement in our household built steadily as the date approached. Ethan meticulously crossed off days on his calendar, a ritual that began exactly 1 month before his birthday. Together, we crafted papier-mâché dinosaur decorations for the walls and table centerpieces. His small hands worked carefully with mine as we painted spotted stegosaurus plates and spiky triceratops horns. "Do you think Grandma and Grandpa will like these?" he asked repeatedly. "Uncle Tyler, too?" "They'll love them," I promised, feeling confident in the RSVP responses I'd received. I planned carefully within my budget, shopping sales, and making decorations instead of buying pre-made party supplies. The cake was my biggest splurge. A professional bakery creation shaped like a T-Rex that cost nearly $100. It was worth every penny when I imagined Ethan's face lighting up at the sight of it. The rest of the food was homemade: dinosaur-shaped sandwiches, fossil cookies, and prehistoric punch with plastic dinosaur ice cubes frozen inside. Saturday arrived with perfect spring weather. Ethan woke at 6 a.m., too excited to sleep. He helped arrange the decorations, carefully placing his favorite dinosaur figures around the apartment. "When will they get here?" he asked repeatedly, referring not to his school friends but to his grandparents and uncle. "The party starts at 2, buddy." "They'll be here then," I reassured him, though a small knot of anxiety had formed in my stomach. I hadn't heard from my family since the confirmation weeks earlier, but surely they wouldn't miss this. By 2:15, several of Ethan's classmates had arrived with their parents. Our small apartment buzzed with the energy of excited 8-year-olds engaged in dinosaur-themed games. I checked my phone repeatedly. No messages from my parents or Tyler. At 2:30, I sent a quick text. "Party's started. We're excited to see you soon." No response. Ethan, in the midst of pin the tail on the T-Rex, kept glancing at the door. "When are Grandma and Grandpa coming?" he asked during a lull in activities. I forced a smile. "I'm sure they're on their way, sweetie. Let's start another game." By 3:30, we were cutting the cake. No family members had arrived. No calls, no texts, nothing. Ethan's excitement had visibly dimmed, though he tried to maintain enthusiasm for his friends. I caught him looking at the door every few minutes, his smile faltering momentarily before he'd turn back to his guests. As parents began picking up their children around 4:30, Ethan stood near the door, still watching. "Maybe they got lost," he suggested, his voice small. "Should we call them?" "Let's clean up a bit first," I deflected, not wanting him to hear the conversation I planned to have with my parents. After the last guest left, Ethan sat among scattered wrapping paper and deflating dinosaur balloons. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked suddenly. "Is that why they didn't come?" My heart shattered. "Absolutely not, sweetie. You did nothing wrong. Sometimes adults just make mistakes with their schedules. I'm sure there's an explanation." Once Ethan was distracted with a new dinosaur book from one of his friends, I stepped into my bedroom and called my mother. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. "Oh, Amanda," she said, as if suddenly remembering. "Was that today? I'm so sorry, we completely forgot. We've been so busy with Tyler's graduation celebration planning." No real apology. No acknowledgement of Ethan's disappointment. Just an excuse centered, predictably, around Tyler. "Mom," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I confirmed with you weeks ago. Ethan was really looking forward to seeing you all." "Well, these things happen," she replied dismissively. "Tyler only graduates from his master's program once, you know. We had to go shopping for decorations for his party. We'll make it up to Ethan sometime." After hanging up, I mindlessly opened Instagram. The first post in my feed was from my mother, timestamped 3 hours earlier. "Shopping day for Tyler's big celebration." The photo showed my parents and Tyler at the mall, all smiles, shopping bags in hand. They hadn't forgotten. They had chosen Tyler's graduation preparation over Ethan's actual birthday. That night, as I tucked Ethan into bed surrounded by his new dinosaur toys, he asked one final question that broke me. "Mommy, do Grandma and Grandpa not love me as much as they love Uncle Tyler?" His eyes were wide, innocent, but filled with an awareness no 8-year-old should have to possess. I held him close, whispering reassurances while fighting back tears. "They love you, sweetie. They just show it differently sometimes." The explanation felt hollow, even to me. As his breathing deepened into sleep, I sat in the dim glow of his dinosaur nightlight and confronted a painful truth. I had been allowing my family to treat my son the same way they had always treated me, as an afterthought. 3 weeks after Ethan's forgotten birthday, I was preparing dinner when my phone lit up with my mother's face. I hesitated before answering, still raw from the birthday incident. We had exchanged only brief text messages since then, nothing addressing what had happened. "Amanda, I'm so glad I caught you," my mother exclaimed, her voice brimming with excitement that made no acknowledgement of the tension between us. "We've finalized all the details for Tyler's graduation celebration. It's going to be absolutely spectacular." I made a non-committal sound as I stirred the pasta sauce, waiting for whatever came next. "We've booked the Lakeside Manor for June 18th, she continued, naming an upscale venue outside the city. "They have that gorgeous ballroom overlooking the water. We're expecting about 75 guests, and the catering package is divine. A full 5-course meal with an open bar." As she detailed the professional photographer, custom-designed invitations, and live jazz trio, I calculated the mounting costs in my head. This sounded like a wedding reception, not a graduation party. "Mom, that sounds expensive," I ventured. "Well, yes, it's coming in around $15,000, she admitted casually, as if discussing lunch money. "But Tyler deserves the best for this achievement." Which brings me to why I'm calling. I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. Your father and I are covering most of it, of course, and Tyler and Rachel are contributing what they can. We were thinking you could handle the catering portion. It's $2,200. I nearly dropped the wooden spoon I was holding. $2,200? For Tyler's graduation party? "It's what family does, Amanda," my mother replied, her tone sharpening slightly. "We support each other for important milestones. You've done well with your promotion last year. I know you can manage this." The casual assumption about my finances ignited something in me. My promotion had indeed come with a raise, which had gone directly into increasing Ethan's college fund and finally replacing our aging refrigerator that had been making ominous noises for months. "Mom, you do remember that you all missed Ethan's birthday completely, right?" He was heartbroken. There was a brief pause. "Oh, Amanda, kids have birthdays every year. This is Tyler's master's graduation. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event." "Ethan's 8th birthday was also a once-in-a-lifetime event," I countered. "He'll never turn 8 again." My mother sighed dramatically. It's not like Ethan will even remember one birthday anyway. Children are resilient. This is different. The casual dismissal of my son's feelings sent a wave of heat through my body. I have a budget, Mom. $2,200 is a significant amount of money for me. Well, she sniffed. I guess we know where your priorities lie then. Just think about it and let me know by the end of the week. We need to finalize everything with the caterer. After hanging up, I stood motionless in my kitchen, sauce bubbling unattended on the stove. The audacity was breathtaking. No acknowledgement of their absence at Ethan's birthday. No apology. Just an expectation that I would shell out over $2,000 for my brother's party without question. I spent the evening going through my budget spreadsheet, though I already knew the answer. $2,200 represented 2 months of Ethan's after-school program, or a significant portion of my emergency fund. It was money earmarked for our needs and future security, not an extravagant party for my brother who had always received the lion's share of family resources. Later that night, my phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications from our family group chat. My mother had created an event for Tyler's graduation celebration, filled with details about the venue, dress code, cocktail attire encouraged, and registry information. Yes, my brother had created a graduation gift registry, as if this were a wedding. Messages poured in from extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all exclaiming how excited they were for the event. No one had shown such enthusiasm for Ethan's simple dinosaur party. No one had even asked how it went. Around midnight, as I was finally drifting off to sleep, my phone lit up with a private message from Tyler. Mom told me you're covering the catering. Just wanted to say thanks in advance, sis. This means a lot. The caterer needs confirmation by Friday, so let Mom know when you've sent the deposit. The presumption left me staring at the ceiling for hours. I had never even agreed to the arrangement, yet it was apparently a done deal in my family's minds. Tyler hadn't even bothered to ask if I was willing or able to contribute such a sum. It was simply expected. Just as it had always been expected that I would understand when my achievements took a back seat to his, when my needs were secondary, when my son's birthday wasn't important enough to remember. Sleep eluded me as I mentally calculated not just the financial cost of this demand, but the emotional precedent it would set. If I agreed, I was telling Ethan that it was acceptable for people to ignore his special day than demand his mother's resources for their own celebration. I would be perpetuating the same dynamic that had shaped my childhood, allowing it to extend into his life. By morning, exhausted but resolute, I knew something had to change. I just wasn't sure yet what my response would be. The day after my mother's call, my phone rang just as I was finishing a presentation at work. Tyler's fiancée, Rachel's name, flashed on the screen. Rachel and I had always maintained a cordial relationship, though we weren't particularly close. She had never shown much interest in Ethan, always seeming uncomfortable around children. "Amanda! I'm so glad I caught you," she chirped when I answered, echoing my mother's greeting from the previous day. I wanted to touch base about the catering deposit for Tyler's graduation. The venue needs it by Friday, and Diane mentioned you're handling that part. The casual way everyone assumed I had agreed to this significant expense continued to astonish me. Actually, Rachel, I haven't committed to that yet. Mom just mentioned it to me yesterday. Oh, she paused, clearly not expecting resistance. Well, it's kind of a done deal in the planning. We've already told the caterer you'd be covering it. My grip tightened on my phone. I don't remember agreeing to that. Rachel's tone shifted from friendly to slightly condescending. Amanda, this is Tyler's big moment. It's just what family does, you know? Tyler worked so hard for this degree. It's your obligation as his sister to support him. The word obligation hit a nerve. I'd spent my entire life fulfilling familial obligations while receiving little in return. I need some time to think about it, I said firmly. I'll let everyone know my decision soon. Rachel made a sound of disapproval. Just don't wait too long. Everything's in motion. She hung up without saying goodbye. That evening, as Ethan was finishing his homework, my father called. Unlike my mother and Rachel, he took a different approach, the guilt trip. Princess, he began, using my childhood nickname that he only brought out when he wanted something. Your mother mentioned you're hesitating about helping with Tyler's party. Dad, $2,200 is a lot of money for me right now. After all we've done for you, Amanda, he said, his voice taking on a wounded tone. We helped you when James left. Remember who watched Ethan when you had that big presentation? Remember who loaned you money when your car broke down 3 years ago? I did remember. I also remembered paying back that loan in full, with interest. I remembered that the watching Ethan had been for 4 hours, once, and had been mentioned in every conversation since, as if it were an ongoing sacrifice. We've always been there for you, he continued, conveniently forgetting the countless times they hadn't been. The conversation ended with my promise to think about it seriously, which seemed to temporarily appease him. But over the next week, the pressure mounted relentlessly. Daily texts arrived from various family members. My mother. The caterer needs to know by tomorrow. Don't make me look bad, Amanda. Tyler. Found the perfect thank you gifts for the graduation. Can't wait for you to see everything you're helping make possible. My aunt. So generous of you to handle the catering for Tyler's special day. The assumption of my compliance was everywhere, as if my agreement was a foregone conclusion rather than a decision I had yet to make. During lunch with my coworker Bailey, I finally voiced the frustration that had been building. They didn't even come to Ethan's birthday, I explained, pushing salad around my plate. Didn't call, didn't send a gift. Nothing. Now they want over $2,000 for Tyler's graduation party. Bailey's eyes widened. $2,000? That's insane. What are they serving? Gold-plated appetizers? Her reaction validated what I had been feeling. That this request wasn't just financially burdensome, but objectively unreasonable. The thing is, I continued, this is just one more example in a lifetime of examples. My brother has always come first. My parents paid for his entire education, but only part of mine. They covered his honeymoon to Italy, but gave us a blender for our wedding. As I listed more instances, a pattern became clearer than ever before. The family vacation where I paid my and Ethan's share while my parents covered Tyler's family entirely. Christmas gifts where Tyler received a new laptop while I got scented candles. The time my parents drove 4 hours to help Tyler move, but couldn't drive 20 minutes to attend Ethan's school play. It sounds like you're always expected to give but rarely receive, Bailey observed. What kind of lesson does that teach Ethan about his worth in the family? Her question lingered with me throughout the afternoon and into the evening. That night, as Ethan and I played a board game before bedtime, he suddenly asked, "What does family really mean, Mom?" Surprised by the depth of his question, I considered carefully. "What makes you ask that, buddy?" He shrugged, moving his game piece forward. "Joey at school says family means the people who always show up for you. But Grandma and Grandpa don't show up much." From the mouths of babes. The simple observation contained such clarity that it took my breath away. Family should be the people who love us consistently, I said finally, who make us feel valued and important. Ethan nodded thoughtfully. If they love us, shouldn't they want to see us? In that moment, something crystallized for me. By continuing to accept the unbalanced family dynamic, I was teaching my son that it was acceptable to be treated as less than. I was showing him that family obligations only ran one way, ours. And, most painfully, I was demonstrating that his feelings and experiences weren't worthy of consideration by the very people who should care about them most. As I tucked him into bed that night, I made a silent promise, not just to Ethan, but to myself. Something needed to change, and I was finally ready to be the one to change it. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, I stood in the doorway of his bedroom watching his peaceful breathing. His dinosaur nightlight cast gentle shadows across walls decorated with his drawings and star charts. This small person trusted me completely to protect not just his physical well-being, but his sense of self-worth. What was I teaching him by continuing to accept such one-sided treatment from my family? That he should expect less than others? That his birthday was less important than his uncle's graduation party? That financial boundaries didn't matter when family made demands? I walked to my bedroom and opened my laptop, pulling up my carefully maintained budget spreadsheet. The harsh reality of numbers stared back at me. $2,200 represented 2 months of Ethan's after-school program, which allowed me to work full hours, almost half the emergency fund I'd painstakingly built over 3 years. A significant portion of the savings I'd earmarked for our eventual move to a neighborhood with better schools. 6 months of Ethan's activities, his dinosaur club, swimming lessons, and library programs. This wasn't just money, it was security, opportunity, stability for my son. I opened my banking app and stared at my checking account balance. I had the money technically. I could transfer it from savings. We wouldn't starve. But the principle suddenly seemed more important than it ever had before. Why was I expected to contribute so substantially to an extravagant party for my brother when my own son's birthday hadn't warranted even a phone call? In that moment of clarity, I made my decision. I clicked through to the payments section of my banking app and entered my mother's information. In the amount field, I deliberately typed $1. In the memo line, I wrote, "This is proportional to the effort you've put into your relationship with Ethan." My finger hovered over the send button for several seconds. This small act of defiance would undoubtedly cause a family earthquake. Was I ready for the aftershocks? I thought about Ethan asking if he'd done something wrong to make his grandparents miss his birthday. I thought about the years of swallowing hurt to keep the peace. I thought about the message my continued compliance would send to my son. I pressed send. The confirmation appeared on screen, and I took a screenshot, knowing documentation might be necessary in the discussions to come. Then I turned off my phone completely, as something I rarely did as a single mom, and went to bed. To my surprise, I slept more soundly than I had in weeks. It was as if a weight I'd been carrying for years had finally been set down. The liberation of that small act of boundary setting washed over me, and I drifted into peaceful sleep without the usual anxiety that accompanied family interactions. Morning arrived with the expected deluge. When I powered on my phone, notifications flooded the screen. 27 missed calls and dozens of text messages. My mother's texts ranged from confused, "There must be a mistake with your payment," to outraged, "How dare you insult us this way?" Tyler's voice messages escalated from bewilderment to fury, the final one consisting mostly of expletives about my selfishness and jealousy of his accomplishments. My father sent a lengthy email expressing his profound disappointment in my childish behavior and lack of family commitment. Rather than responding individually to each message, I composed a single text to the family group chat. "I've thought carefully about the request for $2,200 toward Tyler's graduation celebration. Given that none of you could spare even an hour to attend Ethan's birthday 3 weeks ago, I've decided my contribution will reflect the level of investment you've shown in my son's life. I wish Tyler congratulations on his graduation and hope the celebration is everything he wants it to be. However, I can no longer pretend that our family operates on equal terms or mutual support. Going forward, I'll be matching my contributions, financial, emotional, and time-based, to what is reciprocated. I hope this helps clarify expectations for all of us." The response was immediate and explosive. My mother called 6 times in succession. When I didn't answer, she texted that I was tearing the family apart over a child's birthday party. Tyler accused me of making his graduation about myself and ruining his special day with pettiness. My father's message was perhaps the most revealing. "We've always known you were jealous of the attention Tyler received, but to take it out on us like this is unacceptable." There it was. The acknowledgement, finally, that the preferential treatment had been real, not imagined. Not a misunderstanding or a difference in personalities, but a conscious choice they had made, and were now angry at having identified. I set my phone aside and focused on making Ethan's breakfast. When he bounded into the kitchen, bright-eyed and chattering about a school project, I felt a certainty I hadn't experienced before. Protecting him, not just physically, but emotionally, mattered more than maintaining a facade of family harmony that had never truly existed. "Can we have pancakes shaped like dinosaurs?" he asked, climbing onto his chair. "Absolutely," I replied, realizing that sometimes the smallest forms of showing up, dinosaur pancakes on a Tuesday, were worth more than grand gestures that came with strings attached. The 2 weeks between my $1 payment and Tyler's actual graduation day unfolded like a carefully choreographed drama, with my family members playing their assigned roles to perfection. I maintained my position calmly but firmly, responding to accusations with simple statements of fact rather than emotional defenses. The day of Tyler's graduation ceremony and subsequent celebration, Ethan and I visited the zoo instead. I had explained to him, in age-appropriate terms, that we wouldn't be attending Uncle Tyler's party. Sometimes grown-ups need to take breaks from each other to figure things out, I told him. He accepted this with the resilience children often show, especially when distracted by the promise of seeing his beloved dinosaur exhibits. While we were examining a Triceratops skeleton, my phone began buzzing with notifications. I waited until Ethan was engrossed in a paleontology demonstration before checking. My social media feeds were flooded with photos from Tyler's graduation celebration, many pointedly mentioning family togetherness and supporting each other's milestones. My mother had posted a group family photo with the caption, "So proud of our accomplished son. Nothing more important than family being there for each other's big moments." The pointed message wasn't subtle, especially since she had tagged me despite my absence. Tyler shared multiple photos of the elaborate celebration, writing a lengthy post about those who truly support me and vague references to toxic people who can't celebrate others' success. Again, I was tagged, ensuring I, and our mutual connections, would see it. I resisted the urge to respond publicly. This wasn't a battle to be fought on social media for an audience. Instead, I posted a simple photo of Ethan grinning beside the dinosaur exhibit with the caption, "Creating memories with my amazing son." Nothing more important than showing him what healthy relationships look like. No tags, no passive-aggressive subtext. While the public performance played out online, a more interesting development was occurring privately. My phone lit up with a call from Aunt Catherine, my mother's sister who had always kept a polite distance from family drama. "Amanda," she said when I answered, stepping away from Ethan to take the call. "I wanted to check on you. Your mother called me quite upset about the graduation situation." I braced myself for more criticism, but Catherine surprised me. "I've watched how they've treated you since you were a little girl," she continued, her voice gentle. "What you did took courage. I've never had the nerve to stand up to Diane like that, even when she's been clearly in the wrong." The unexpected support brought tears to my eyes. "I just couldn't do it anymore, Aunt Catherine. Not when it started affecting Ethan, too." "You did the right thing," she assured me. "Some people need firm boundaries. I'm only sorry it came to this." Catherine wasn't the only one to reach out. My cousin Melissa, who I'd always gotten along with but never been particularly close to, sent a lengthy text describing her own experiences with family favoritism. "My brother was always my parents' golden child, too," she wrote. "It took me years of therapy to realize I wasn't imagining it. Standing your ground is inspiring." As the days passed, a surprising network of family outcasts emerged. Relatives who had, in various ways, failed to meet the unspoken expectations of our family hierarchy and been subtly ostracized as a result. Uncle Robert's second wife, Samantha, whom the family had never fully embraced, sent a supportive email. My father's cousin, who had chosen a career in art rather than the family insurance business, reached out. Even my grandmother's sister, Julia, long considered the black sheep for divorcing in the 1970 seconds, called to express solidarity. The emergence of this shadow family, the ones who had also felt the sting of conditional acceptance, was unexpectedly healing. I hadn't realized how many others had experienced similar treatment, all of us suffering individually while maintaining the collective fiction of perfect family harmony. While this supportive network was forming, my immediate family cycled through predictable stages of attempting to regain control. My grandmother called to remind me of family tradition and how in my day, we respected our parents no matter what. Uncle Robert lectured about how family should always come first, conveniently ignoring that this principle hadn't applied when it came to attending Ethan's birthday. My mother's approach was perhaps the most textbook. Tearful accusations about how I was tearing the family apart and breaking her heart, as if the decades of preferential treatment had no bearing on our current situation. When emotional manipulation didn't work, she shifted to anger, then to icy silence. For a full week, no one from my immediate family contacted me. I used the respite to focus on Ethan, who seemed to sense the shift in dynamics. "You seem happier, Mom," he observed one evening as we built a Lego dinosaur together. "You're not looking at your phone and sighing anymore." His simple observation struck me. I had been happier, more present, less anxious about meeting impossible family expectations. The constant background hum of trying to earn approval had fallen silent, leaving room for genuine enjoyment of my time with my son. The silence broke unexpectedly the following week with a text from my mother. "Would you be willing to meet for lunch next Saturday? Just us. We should talk." I stared at the message for a long time, weighing my response. Finally, I wrote back. "I'm open to talking if you're ready to acknowledge the inequality in how you've treated me and Ethan compared to Tyler and his family. Without that recognition, I don't see how we move forward." The ball was in her court now. For the first time in my life, I had set conditions for engaging with my family rather than accepting whatever scraps of attention they offered. Whether this would lead to healing or deeper estrangement remained to be seen, but either way, I had taken the first step toward redefining our relationship on healthier terms. As July approached, the annual family 4th of July celebration at my parents' lake house loomed on the horizon. This tradition had been sacrosanct in our family for as long as I could remember. 3 days of barbecues, boating, and forced family togetherness documented meticulously for social media. Attendance was not so much expected as assumed. The tentative lunch with my mother had never materialized. After my response setting conditions for our meeting, she had replied only with, "I need time to think about this," and then silence had fallen again. Now, 2 weeks before the 4th, my father sent a text that simply read, "Your mother is finalizing the food assignments for the lake weekend. What will you be bringing?" The assumption that Ethan and I would attend, despite everything that had happened, was so perfectly in character that I almost laughed. No acknowledgement of the ongoing conflict, no apology, just an expectation that when family gatherings occurred, past grievances would be swept aside in service of maintaining appearances. After careful consideration, I replied, "Ethan and I won't be attending this year. I hope everyone enjoys the weekend." The response was immediate. "This is family, Amanda. Some traditions shouldn't be broken. Your mother will be very upset." I turned off my phone without responding further. That evening, as I considered how Ethan and I would spend the holiday weekend instead, I received a surprising text from Melissa. "Some of us nonconformists are having our own July 4th gathering at my place if you and Ethan would like to join. Very casual, no drama, just food and fireworks. Thought you might prefer it to the official family extravaganza." The invitation felt like a lifeline. "We'd love to come," I replied immediately. Melissa's alternative 4th of July celebration turned out to be exactly what Ethan and I needed. Her backyard was modest compared to my parents' lakefront property, but the atmosphere was relaxed and genuinely welcoming. Children played without constant admonishments about behaving properly for family photos. Adults conversed without the undercurrent of comparison and judgment that characterized official family gatherings. Ethan hit it off immediately with Melissa's son Carter, the two boys bonding over shared interest in science experiments. I found myself engaged in conversations that didn't revolve around family gossip or subtle one-upmanship, instead discussing books, current events, and personal interests with relatives I'd never had the chance to really know. "I haven't attended the official 4th party in 3 years," Samantha confided as we watched the children setting up a water balloon toss. After the 3rd time Robert's mother accidentally called me by his ex-wife's name, I decided life was too short. "How did you handle the fallout?" I asked, genuinely curious about how others had navigated similar boundaries. "There was drama at first," she admitted. "A lot of guilt trips about family unity and thinking of the children. But eventually they realized I wasn't going to cave. Now Robert goes for 1 day without me, and we spend the rest of the weekend doing something we actually enjoy." Throughout the day, I collected similar stories from the other family rebels. Tales of setting boundaries, weathering the initial storm, and ultimately establishing new, healthier patterns of engagement. None of them had been completely excommunicated, as I had feared might happen to me. Instead, they had redefined the terms of their family relationships, participating selectively in ways that preserved their well-being. Meanwhile, social media provided a window into the official family gathering. Photos showed the usual carefully orchestrated scenes of perfect family fun at the lake. My mother posted a group shot with the caption, almost all our beloved family together for our special tradition, missing some faces but holding them in our hearts. The passive-aggressive acknowledgement of our absence was exactly what I had expected. What I hadn't anticipated was my reaction. Indifference. 6 months ago, such a public reference to my exclusion would have sent me spiraling into anxiety and guilt. Now, watching Ethan laughing hysterically as he and Carter conducted an elaborate experiment involving mint candies and soda bottles, I couldn't bring myself to care about the manufactured drama at the lake. Later that evening, as fireworks burst overhead and Ethan leaned sleepily against my shoulder, my phone lit up with a text from my mother. "We missed you today." It was the first acknowledgement, however small, that our absence had been felt. Not an apology, not a recognition of why we weren't there, but a tiny crack in the facade of indifference. I replied simply, "Thank you for saying that." Ethan and I had a good day too. On the drive home, with Ethan dozing in the back seat, I reflected on the strange new terrain I was navigating. Setting boundaries didn't mean cutting off my family entirely, but it did mean redefining our relationship on more equal terms. It meant being selective about which traditions to maintain and which to replace with healthier alternatives. Most importantly, it meant showing Ethan through example that love shouldn't require diminishing yourself to please others. "Mom," Ethan mumbled sleepily as I carried him from the car to our apartment. "I liked being with people who wanted to talk to me today." His innocent observation held profound wisdom. In the alternative gathering, he had been seen and valued, his stories listened to, his presence celebrated. The contrast with previous family events, where he had often been relegated to the kids' table and largely ignored by adults focused on Tyler's family, hadn't escaped his notice. "I'm glad, buddy," I whispered, tucking him into bed still in his star-spangled t-shirt. "That's how it should be." As I closed his bedroom door, I made a silent commitment to continue building this new kind of community around us. People who showed up consistently, who demonstrated that caring was an action, not just a claim. The blood ties to my family remained, but I was beginning to understand that family could be chosen too, built through genuine connection rather than obligation. The emotional cost of standing my ground had been high, but watching my son experience what it felt like to be truly welcome and important had made it worthwhile. Whatever came next with my parents and brother, this lesson alone justified everything. 3 months after sending that symbolic $1 payment, Ethan and I were planning his half-birthday celebration. A small tradition we'd started where we marked the halfway point to his next birthday with a special dinner and a small gift. This year, he had requested dinosaur-shaped pasta and a new book about paleontology discoveries. As I was wrapping his gift, the doorbell rang. A delivery person handed me a small package addressed to Ethan. The return address belonged to Aunt Catherine. Inside was a children's book about dinosaurs with a note. "For my great-nephew on his half-birthday. Looking forward to seeing you at Thanksgiving. Love, Great Aunt Catherine." I stared at the package in disbelief. I had mentioned Ethan's half-birthday to Catherine during a recent phone call, but never expected her to remember, much less send a gift. It was a small gesture but significant. The first time a family member had independently remembered and acknowledged a special occasion for Ethan without prompting or reminding. That evening, as Ethan excitedly flipped through his new book, my phone chimed with a text from my mother. "Amanda, your father and I have been doing some thinking. We've found a family therapist who specializes in family dynamics and relationships. Would you consider attending a session with us?" The message caught me completely off guard. In all my years of challenging interactions with my family, therapy had never been mentioned as a possibility. My mother had always maintained that family matters should stay private, that outsiders couldn't understand our special dynamics. I didn't respond immediately, needing time to consider whether this represented a genuine desire for change or simply another attempt to bring me back into line. After discussing it with Bailey, who had become a valued sounding board, I finally replied, "I'm open to the possibility, but I'd need to know the therapist is truly neutral and that we're all committed to honest discussion." My mother's agreement came with surprising speed, along with the therapist's contact information and credentials. A tentative appointment was scheduled for the following month. This unexpected development prompted deeper reflection on my journey since that fateful $1 payment. The past 3 months had brought significant changes, not just in my relationship with my family, but in my own well-being. The anxiety that had been my constant companion for years had diminished considerably. Without the pressure to meet impossible family expectations or constantly manage their emotions, I found myself sleeping better, feeling more present with Ethan, and even performing better at work. My recent promotion to senior marketing manager had come with congratulations from colleagues who noted my increased confidence in presentations and client interactions. Ethan, too, showed positive changes. His teachers reported improved concentration at school and greater willingness to participate in group activities. At home, he seemed more secure, less concerned about seeking approval, and more comfortable expressing his genuine interests and feelings. The weight of navigating complicated family dynamics had been lifted from his small shoulders, allowing him to simply be an 8-year-old boy fascinated by dinosaurs and science experiments. Perhaps most surprisingly, I had found community in unexpected places. The family rebels from the 4th of July gathering had become a genuine support network. We had a group chat where we shared everything from parenting challenges to career advice, celebrating each other's successes and offering support during difficulties. I had even started a small support group for single parents in our apartment complex, meeting monthly for potluck dinners while the children played together. These connections filled the void left by the distance from my immediate family, but in a healthier way, relationships based on mutual respect and genuine caring rather than obligation and performance. The $1 revenge, as I sometimes thought of it, had never really been about the money. It had been about sending a message, about finally saying that my son and I deserved reciprocity in our relationships. The symbolic amount hadn't been meant to hurt my family financially, but to make visible the inequality that had been normalized for so long. In the weeks following my boundary setting, Tyler's attitude had gradually shifted from outrage to grudging reflection. His most recent text message had contained something I'd never received from him before: an apology. "I've been thinking about Ethan's birthday," he wrote. "I should have been there. I'm sorry I wasn't." The acknowledgement wasn't elaborate or particularly eloquent, but it was sincere, a first step toward potential reconciliation on new terms. My parents' journey toward recognition had been slower and more complicated. The suggestion of family therapy represented progress, but I remained cautiously optimistic rather than naively hopeful. Decades of established patterns wouldn't change overnight, and I was prepared for setbacks along the way. As Ethan finished his half-birthday dinosaur pasta, complete with the little paper umbrella he insisted made it fancy, I realized that the most valuable lesson from this experience wasn't about standing up to my family. It was about investing in relationships that nurtured rather than depleted us. About showing my son through example that love shouldn't come with conditions or comparisons. "Mom," Ethan said suddenly, chocolate ice cream dotting his chin, "are we going to see Grandma and Grandpa for Thanksgiving?" I wiped his face gently with a napkin. "We might, buddy. We're still figuring things out." "That's okay," he nodded sagely. "Like you said, sometimes grown-ups need time to learn how to be better at loving people." His simple wisdom brought tears to my eyes. Whatever happened with my family going forward, I knew we would face it from a foundation of greater strength and clearer boundaries. The journey wouldn't always be smooth, but it would be authentic. Sometimes I reflected as Ethan bounced off to get ready for bed, sending just $1 is worth more than $2,000 in self-respect. The most valuable investment I'd made wasn't in appeasing family expectations, but in showing my son that his mother could stand up for both of us, that we deserved relationships that gave as much as they took. As we move forward, I'm committed to forgiveness without returning to old patterns, to healing without sacrificing self-respect. The road ahead may be challenging, but for the first time, it feels like we're traveling in the right direction, toward relationships based on genuine care rather than obligation, toward a definition of family that values presence over performance, and toward a future where my son grows up knowing his worth isn't determined by others' ability to recognize it. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who showed favoritism? How did you handle the situation, and what did you learn from the experience? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories about navigating complex family dynamics. And remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is teaching others how to treat you with respect. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to stand up for yourself when necessary.